Hey everybody, how's it going? It's me, Sasha. Nice to see you. It's a funny story. We were in an office, like literally super high speed, everything, and then they kicked us out a minute ago. So we're literally outside of the office, even though there's a cleaner in there right now who could have locked up after us. That doesn't matter. It's kind of funny in a way. So today's very special. If you know anything about anything, I was at the Infinite Man doing our third ever Infinite Man event in Lisbon. It was epic. That's the only word I can use. So many amazing men, so many amazing speakers, and for the first time ever, I got the pleasure of meeting and hanging with a guy called Peter Sage. He absolutely crushed it at the event. I mean, I was slightly angry because I'm a good speaker and he just made me look mediocre. I'll be honest. After him, I was like, yeah, I really need to work on myself and my speaking a lot more. But it's okay. I've forgiven him because at my level of conscience, you have to let go and forgive. So I forgive him. But he's a real powerhouse. He's really been on the path of consciousness for a long time. He's been an entrepreneur for a really, really long time. And so I'm learning so much, man. I learned so much at the event, and then I did a podcast with him, and now I've had the immense pleasure of actually kind of trailing him, just hanging out with him for a few days here in Tenerife, Spain. And he's just so he's just so rooted and grounded in who he is, and in the when you get wisdom and knowledge in life, especially on the path of consciousness and self-development. When you're growing, it takes a little while it takes a while to sort of like you get something and you go, yeah, that makes sense. But then to really live it, to really get it into the cell so that it just is your reality and it is your truth, that takes a bit more time. Isn't that right, buddy?
Oh, yeah.
It takes a little bit more time.
Part of the journey.
So it's amazing. So I'm a bit of in a way, a spiritual noob. I had some awakenings, but really I'm on it now. And it's really cool hanging out with someone who's just been in it for a long time and is very, very grounded in their reality, and it's a beautiful thing. So I'm just really, really excited. And this thing, we decided to make this open to anybody who wants to join, and we'll make the replay open too, because we will be doing a proper business, how to make a business consciously and affect the world from a place of higher consciousness. We're going to be doing a proper thing only for the paid group, the Infinite Man Academy. Next month with Peter Sage, and I thought, why not just share some of the love? Not everyone's in the group, not everyone, whatever has the finances or can't be in it for whatever reason. Let's just do one for everybody and just spread the love. So say hello, beautiful world, to the fantastic Peter Sage.
Hey, beautiful world. How are we today? And real great pleasure for me to be here and say hi to you guys, and really just acknowledge you for giving me your time today, which I hopefully can return by giving something of value that's going to be important for you to be able to take away, that's practical and useful. And that's kind of our aim today, to really sort of share some love, share some value, and answer some questions and see where we can go to really make a difference. That's what it's about.
That's what's so annoying about this guy. He's always giving. It's almost like he has this belief that the more that you give, the more that you get back. It's almost like he's gaming the system in some way. Are you just gaming the system, Pete?
I think it's called feedback. I think I played the game of trying to get long enough to know that life gave me enough feedback to know that playing the game of how can I grow myself so that I can contribute more of myself is a far more rewarding game.
All right, if you want to put it that way, that's fine. But seriously, one of the things that I've been going down this rabbit hole. So Pete here was like, you got to check out this guy called Tom Campbell, and you know what? I just had my reality blown today because I watched the video and everything, like some pieces just clicked, and I was like, oh my god. Why don't you give people like a really brief who is Tom Campbell, because I think we're going to talk about this as our first little fun topic.
Oh well, there you go, straight into the deep end. Hey, well, yeah, there's very few people that I come across that really affect me in a way that allows pieces of the life puzzle to fit into place in a complete way. There's a lot of teachers out there, a lot of gurus out there, a lot of people that have had a journey that has been inspiring for them that they want to share, that really then just allows you to feel your own way through your truth with some guide points. But it's very rare you get somebody that just delivers pieces in whole. I'm like, whoa, when I came across David Hawkins' Power versus Force, for example, that's one big critical piece. But when I came across Tom Campbell, it blew my mind, because for the first time I had a scientifically based understanding of the nature of reality, from consciousness to metaphysics to theology to philosophy. It's the most encompassing model of reality I'd ever came across. And what I love about Tom, he's a pragmatic scientist. Yeah, he's a skeptical realist. This isn't about a woo-woo stuff. But Tom is essentially a subscriber or a developer of the virtual reality model, and this is picking up a huge amount of steam in physics now and in science, whereas people that are tied into the old material paradigm, that there's an out there, and and we're separate from it, are now starting to understand that the reality and the physics is showing us irrefutably that we are all part of a large virtual reality multiplayer simulation that is geared up to make us be here for a reason. And when you understand that reason, life has meaning and purpose at a level that resonates in your soul.
Yeah, man, it's crazy. And there's certain things you come to understand by reading certain spiritual books, Conversations with God and Autobiography of a Yogi and all these kind of things, and through meditation and all this kind of stuff, and it's wonderful. And Pete was telling me about this guy, and I was like, yeah, I don't know if I need science to prove this stuff to me. Like, I know that we reincarnate because I've had these experiences. I understand certain things. But then when it clicks, you're like, oh, okay. So when you can actually prove that this is not just that we just reincarnate, but when you actually prove that this is a simulation and we're actually consciousness, and we're just literally receiving the signal that's our personality, and we're here to play and we do whatever, and then boom, we just go to the next thing. My God, it's so amazing because I have friends who are, they're not really in the space where they can really connect to it on that spiritual angle for whatever reason. They just can't connect with certain books or certain whatever. But they're more sort of mental and highly intelligent, but so they can look at Campbell's stuff and from a scientific perspective understand then that it is a virtual reality and that love is actually the thing that governs everything. Without the woo-woo, just like get in your heart. No, they can still understand it from a biological level too, which is unbelievable. With how the cells work and entropy and all that stuff. It's just unbelievable. And so I'm going to try and share it even though it's different. I'm going to try and share it because I want to share with you things that happened in my personal life that actually correlate perfectly with what he's saying. And it's like when you accumulate more truth, the case just builds and builds, and after a while you're like, well, that's just it. This is it. It's the truth. The truth is the truth. Yeah, it's the truth. And so one of the things the aha moment I had today, where I was like, I literally had to stop what I was doing and just sit for like a couple hours and just take it easy, because I was just sitting there and my mind was like, it was just ridiculous. And so what it comes down to, and maybe Pete will go into the experiment that actually shows this, but fundamentally, everything exists as potentiality, right? And Bashar and other TV talk about this. You can shift timelines, and my understanding was that there's different timelines and you can actually shift to them. But now I'm starting to realize that it's potentialities. There's things that could potentially happen. They all already exist as potential, but based on your intention and your will and what happened, and as we're co-creating, depends on what other people are doing as well. You can go into the timelines that you prefer. But as the universe, it's a consciousness, and we're part of that consciousness. This is the thing that absolutely blew my mind. Everything's a potentiality, and so we've all experienced synchronicities. Everyone's been like, oh, the odds of that happening were really weird. Like, that's exactly what I needed to happen. That's so weird. That the universe is actually giving us things that actually, like, there's 10 random things that might happen. But the one that we need for our personal growth, that's the one that gets offered up to us, because the universe recognizes that's what we need for our biggest, our spiritual growth. And when you actually realize that it's all VR, none of this is real. Like, we're a soul out there somewhere. We're just inhabiting the body for this journey of the soul. And we're literally just, it's like a choose your own adventure book, where you pick, like, okay, you want to do A, B, or C. That's what this is, but on a much, much, much grander, more epic fucking scale. Man, so this was the example I wanted to share. There was a girl I used to have a crush on, when I was 10 years old, and I never forgot her, and she was wonderful. And one day she just comes up into my mind, and I was like, oh yeah, that girl. I wonder what happened to that girl. I know her name. Let's look her up on Facebook. And I go on Facebook and I look her up, and she's not there. And I was like, oh man, I definitely know that's her name. She must be on that. That's really, I let it go. And then a little while later, maybe a month later, I think, she must be on. I'm going to try her again. And I look it up again and whatever. And this has happened with her and another guy who I used to be friends with, the same story. I'd look for someone knowing their name on Facebook, and it just wasn't there. But I kept, once in a while, I would just put my intention, and I literally would know, like, no, they have to be there. I'm going to check again. And after 3 or 4 times, boom, they'd show up. But they were never there before, and they had that Facebook account for years. That doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense, except when you realize this model and you realize that actually the people I was searching for, they weren't, because I hadn't spoken to them for years, they weren't at all in my reality. There was no potential, like the potentiality for me reaching out to them or meeting them ever again in life was very low. But when I set my consciousness, like, no, I want to know how they're doing. I want to reach out to this person and say hi. After a while, me putting my intention on it, boom. The universe went, okay, there is the potential that you would find them, and therefore there it is. And my intention, because I really wanted to see how they connect with these couple of people, suddenly the search shows up, but that makes absolutely no sense in terms of the Facebook algorithm. It doesn't make any sense. I know that I knew it was weird when I found them, but I knew something weird was going on, because after not finding them, there's no reason I ever would. But I did. It's just these little things, and then I've got timeline shifts and all kinds of other crazy fucking things that have gone on. Anyway, yeah, people are asking questions about Mandela. Would this also feed into ideas of time slips and Mandela effects and not just moments of confabulation? Well, so I've been into Mandela for a while, and this is something now that I've been looking at this new model. I have a lot of thinking to do about how this actually fits into alternate timelines and stuff, because what I'm starting to just understand now is that it's all a database, it's all just information, and everything that's happened in the past or not happened in the past is all in the database. So there's potential things that could have happened but never did, compared to your consciousness, and there's things in the future that potentially could happen and still may happen, because they're still in your quote future. Hey, hang on, Sasha, you're on the paid group. Oh, hello everybody. Sorry about that. We have too many groups, guys. So we have the Infinite Man paid group, and then we have this group, which is free, and then I have my personal account, and then we have another group for the student. I mean, it's too many. So for all those of you joining us, hi, I'm Sasha, and
hi, this is Peter again.
That's starting over, and I'll give the short story of what just happened. Peter's awesome. And he's done crazy things, like speak with some of the biggest people in the world, like Richard Branson and Tony Robbins. He used to work with Tony Robbins, all this kind of stuff. So he's a massively successful entrepreneur. Made millions, lost millions, made millions, lost millions. Has always generated tremendous amounts of money. And we were actually chatting about this in the car the other day, that he's very good at generating. He's always generating a lot, and I'm pretty good at generating, but I'm also good at managing and investing. And he doesn't even give a shit when he loses money, because he's just like, it doesn't matter because I'll just make more money, which is really, really empowering, actually. But anyway, he's just a baller, and I really appreciate him, and it's so cool hanging out with him, because he's really, all of his understandings about life, business, consciousness, he's just been at it for a while, and it's really ingrained. It's just so solid, and so being around someone who's so very, very amazing. So it's really affecting me and making me even more awesome. Hey, I like being more awesome. Who doesn't like being more awesome?
Hey, we're all super awesome.
Yeah, everyone. Awesome plus awesome equals super awesome. And basically, the trip that he's on, basically, and just like I shifted my passion from, just dating and chasing girls and all this kind of stuff into more self-development and consciousness and spirituality and loving myself and healing myself, and that's part of my big journey. Pete's now also going through a huge shift from being a massively known and successful entrepreneur into consciousness. Isn't that right? That's your big passion you're going into now.
That's right. It's about being able to raise levels of consciousness, whereas business was a vehicle, and it was a vehicle and a crucible of many different aspects. It provides a framework for self-validation, for creative expression, for understanding value, for being able to have understanding of not just you, but customers and other peoples and different models of the world, and dealing with uncertainty and all of that kind of stuff. So it's a great training ground for many different aspects of building character, but ultimately the human journey is about moving through levels of consciousness. And when it comes to spirituality and business, for example, when you're at a low level of consciousness, you tend to resent people that have stuff, because you come from a victim mentality, and therefore you feel unlucky because people have got something you haven't. And if you're a victim, it's because you've got a bad hand dealt. When you start to raise your consciousness, vehicle becomes an expression of how you can use it as a way to contribute value. When you get to higher levels of consciousness, you have no longer interest in being able to benchmark that through materialism. It just comes through far more sort of non-materialistic ways and spiritual growth. So you talk about is business bad? Can you be spiritual and have business? Well, of course you can, because at high levels of consciousness, vehicle is a way to be able to contribute to the world. At a low level of consciousness, business is a way for you to try to get something you think is missing. From the highest levels of consciousness, business, you don't need the vehicle in order to be able to know that you're whole. So there's various different aspects, and they're all reflective of your own personal journey, which is always the game that you're in when you're playing the sole star of the movie called your life.
Yeah, that's so true. I mean, it's exactly what I've been going through. For a while, my journey was I didn't love myself, and I didn't have confidence, and I didn't know how to talk to women. So I went on this crazy journey, and I delved into it, and I learned so much, and I shared that journey with others. And now I'm on a different journey, which is really all about self-love and consciousness, raising my frequency, spreading positive vibrations. And so everything is moving in that direction. The events that I'm doing, the companies that I'm doing, my podcast, the Infinite Man Summit. So it's like you have no choice. If you're being true to yourself and authentic to yourself, your job, your business, your relationships, everything are going to be reflective of who you're becoming, where you're moving, right? You can't help that as long as you're evolving. It's when we're not evolving and we're stuck, and we, you know what I mean. That's when life gets really not exciting and shitty. And it's hard to imagine. It's hard to imagine that, because it's just, I don't know. It's just a continual shift, continual change. It's fucking madness, as you'd say if you're from the north. It's fucking mad. You're fucking joking, man. All right. So no more Newcastle accent. He's from Leicester, not Newcastle. Yes.
Leicester, dear boy.
I know, it's funny to say Leicester. He's from Leicester. So,
got any questions?
There are a couple of questions already. One of them, it was a general one, but it basically was. Can you name? I mean, it's. I'll ask the question. Let's first just at least wrap up the discussion we sort of started before, which was yes, exactly. So we were basically talking about how science, a guy called Tom Campbell, has started to basically prove that we are in a virtual reality, and that there is in the future is actually a bunch of potentialities, and based on your intent and consciousness and co-creating with other people, you can pick one of the ones that that you prefer, and also the universe can kind of gives you little bumps and signals and hints as to opportunities that you can take for your own spiritual development. And this is apparently how it's working in mathematics, and science is actually proving this. So we had a question before, when I was filming in the wrong room, about how this kind of works with the Mandela effect. Now, if you guys don't know, I think most of you do. Mandela effect is a simple thing where some people remember things being one way, but other people remember things being another way. And it's called Mandela effect because some people remember Nelson Mandela dying in prison in the 80s, but in this current timeline, most people agree he actually died in 2013. But actually, I know lots of people who are like, no, he didn't. And so there's so many things like this. I went down this rabbit hole. So how do you reconcile the Mandela effect with millions of people having different memories from seemingly other timelines to, this new information by Tom under this current model?
Cool. Well, great question. The first thing one has to understand is that, again, this is a virtual reality. Essentially means that this is a computed reality. Particles, when they weren't being measured, they behaved like, which in other words, like a wave. So that threw the whole aspect of materialism as a model out of the window at that time. But of course, what did science do for the next 100 years or so? They did what they normally do. Instead of doing what real science should do, which is to continuously move your hypothesis in order to fit new consistent data, they says, no, that kind of screws things up. That's weird. So we're going to ignore the data that doesn't support our hypothesis. And that's not science, that's called dogma. So now we're trying to get a whole understanding around digital physics, which is proving now that reality is actually virtual. And it behaves exactly the same as the virtual realities we create as a fractal expression of that through computer games, etc. So when you look at the Mandela effect, we are living in a virtual reality. It's a computed reality. Consciousness is the computer, and reality outside is being computed, which means it is also being stored in a database, essentially. So everything that has happened up to this point, just like everything that has happened on your computer, is stored in a database. Now, not only that, but the way this consciousness and this computer works, as far as we can tell, is that not only is because it's a simulation, and because it's how most simulations work, they work off probabilities, anything that could have happened is also recorded as a potential. Now, because consciousness is actually interpreting our physical third-dimensional reality through a data stream, you get data into your consciousness from two sources, the physical source and the mental source. They're two data streams. When you meditate, for example, what you're trying to do is lower the volume or lower the data on those two data streams, the physical and the mental. Now, when you do that, you go to what's called point consciousness, and from there you can use intent to query the database. But if your signal-to-noise ratio is too high because you've got too much mental chatter and physical chatter data coming into your data stream, you can't do that. Right? Signal-to-noise ratio is too bad. But if you were to get access to that database, you could ask, or using intent, what would have the probability have been, or what would reality have been like had Hitler won World War II? Is there a probability where Nelson Mandela could have died in the 1980s, for example, in prison? Yes, absolutely, because that potential exists in the quantum field. So if you are operating where your data stream is more connected to the probability of that happening, or querying that happens because of certain belief systems or what have you, or references, etc., then that will become true for you because you're getting access to more of that data stream in the database than what actually happened. That explains it a little more. So it becomes more real for you because you're accessing that as a query rather than, and living with that then as a truth, rather than saying no. It's not as if there's multiple realities, or multiverses. That's the failed concept of string theory. And string theory had to invent the multiple universe reality based upon consistencies with trying to make its theory actually work. And there's just too many assumptions that are required there, including multiverse. Now, on a computed reality, which this is, multiverse makes no absolute sense, because why would you waste that much computer processing power on a infinite number of infinitely generated potentialities? No. Okay? When you are working on a computer game, the computer doesn't render every single scenario at all. No, it exists as a potential, but that would just take too much processing power. It brings into your screen the reality that you're experiencing at that particular moment. And when you're not looking at the screen, what's off screen is no longer existing in front of you in your data stream. It exists as potential. Just like the icons on your phone. You swipe them one way, where do they go? They go back to existing in a state of possibility. Swipe them back, they're already there. Again. So, and that's the same as if you walk upstairs, you go to your bedroom, you make your bed, you walk downstairs. That bedroom no longer exists if it's not being measured by your consciousness, unless it's being measured by somebody else's consciousness. So you walk back upstairs and the pillow's in the exact same spot. Well, of course, because once you've measured it, it's there. You playing a zombie game, World of Zombies, and you look round the corner, there's a probability distribution as to whether there'll be a zombie there or not. But once you look and there is, and you look back, next time you look around the corner, it's there because it's already been measured. Make sense? Yeah. So again, we're going a little fast track here, but I'd encourage you to work out or go study the work of Tom Campbell. And the first video that I encourage Sasha to watch to try to get an understanding, and if you resonate with this, then it's great to move further, is the interview between Tom Campbell, who is a NASA nuclear physicist, and Bruce Lipton, for some of you may know of, who is a biologist and wrote the groundbreaking book in 2005, which I read then, called The Biology of Belief. A great book. And Bruce is now a spiritual biologist. Tom Campbell is a spiritual scientist and probably one of the most accomplished researchers of consciousness on the planet. So based on that, we have, go look at the interview. It's called Two Scientists See the Same World View. Bruce Lipton and Tom Campbell put it into YouTube. I guarantee you it's going to be 90 minutes of fascination and understanding.
Yeah, you got to watch it. Don't worry, we'll post all the links up. It's super cool. Okay, so we got one question. That's a good question, so let's go with this one. Mr. Giancarlo Castro. That's an Italian name if I heard one. He says, I want to be financially independent while working remotely, but being aligned with my purpose is the most important thing to me. What can I do right now to get the ball rolling?
That question for me?
That's a question for you.
Ah, right.
Oh, that sun is interesting. Interesting sun.
Yeah, there we go. Look at that. I've got my shadow, and it's a halo. Yeah, don't be fooled. So, following your passion is one thing, and I want to give you a distinction here, guys, because this is a question I get asked a lot. Oh, I want to follow my passion. I'm going to quit my work because I hate my work. Right? And oh, hang on, there we go. Now look at that. Yeah, full on. So I want to quit my job because I hate my job and I want to follow my passion. Well, passion can be very much confused with the contrast of what you don't want. So when you move away from a job that you don't like, you can feel better and think, wow, yeah, I want to go do what I want to do. And something that gives you an emotional high may be something that you then confuse for your passion, or believe that should be something you're doing. I'm a firm believer, instead of following your passion, you should follow your potential. Because if your passion is released in the expression of your potential, saying, oh, I'm just passionate about playing the guitar, well, maybe you're not destined to become financially successful through writing songs on the guitar. Maybe you are. But maybe your potential is in doing something else that you have a natural predisposition, a natural gift for, something that lights you up. If you could pay to do it, you would do it. And so from a commercial perspective, what is it? I want to be remote, I want to have a laptop and become financially successful and travel the world. That's great. That just simply means you don't subscribe to a 20th century model of building a company around a particular lease on a 20-year building and employing staff and designing yourself into the equation at that level. And the good news is you don't have to. We now live in a society where the barrier to entry on working remotely has not just been lowered, it's been nuked. You now don't have to do what I used to do, which is invest $1 million in capex to create an infrastructure where you can actually build a business. Now, on a smartphone and an app for $10 a month, you can get access to the same level of infrastructure that you used to have to invest hundreds of thousands of dollars and years of R&D into, that you now get the benefit of for nothing. So you can. The fact you want to travel and work off a laptop is irrelevant. What you really want to be asking is, what do I want to be engaged in? Because that's just a delivery method. That's just an engagement method. The question is, what do I want to be involved in that allows me to add value to enough people in such a way that it lights me up, because it's my passion is released by being able to grow my potential, and at the same time allows people to benefit in a way that compels them to pay me for that value. Because that's what money is, guys. Remember, it is an arbitrary medium of exchange that is used to measure perceived value. So a short answer to your question there, my Italian friend, is this. Know what it is that you're passionate about in the pursuit of your potential. Second, decide to ask yourself the question, what is it that I could do to be able to add value to more people in a way that lights me up, not makes me feel as if I'm doing it through guilt, duty, and obligation as a slave vehicle to be able to get the money, to get the car that I want, so that I can prove to the world that doesn't give a crap that I'm good enough. That would be my first way of doing it. We are living in a society right now where there are infinite ways of being able to generate ideas, opportunities, potential to go give your gift to the world in a way that will have millions of people pay you handsomely for it. Work on yourself to be able to follow that, and you'll have your answer.
Nice, very good. One of our members had posted in events, what to do when you're not sure what the right choice is.
What do you do when you're not sure what the right choice is? Let me explain something. You're never sure really what the right choice is. What you're saying is, what you're really asking is, how do I get certainty about not making a mistake? Well, I've got news for you. You don't. You never have enough information to make a logical choice on, or even an emotional choice, on some of the biggest, most impactful decisions of your life. Think about it. Do you ever have enough data on who to marry, how many kids to have, where you're going to live, what career to follow, what university to go to? No. What do you do? It's like saying, listen, I need to know that this dart is going to hit the bullseye. No. What do? You throw the damn dart. Now, how do you make a decision on the right choice? By making a decision and knowing, if it gives you feedback, that it's the wrong choice. We're in Earth School. So therefore, you can either have analysis by paralysis, which is a code name for fear of making a mistake, or you can turn around and say, well, I don't really know what I'm going to do, so I'm going to pick something, and then I'm going to be open to feedback, both emotionally, intellectually, circumstantially, environmentally, all of that stuff, and then make another decision. I've got a belief that says I can always undo decisions that I make that I don't think are good decisions. Now, if you don't have that belief, you think you're stuck, or, if you get married to somebody, it's the wrong decision. Can you undo that decision? Of course you can, whether there's kids involved or not. So, first of all, give up the need for the addiction to have enough certainty to think that you're not going to make a mistake. Why? Because we learn more from the wrong answers we give in class than the right answers we give in class. Case closed. So don't be afraid of that. Now, if I said to you, I guarantee you'll be a millionaire after your 4th failure, you can either say, well, I'm too scared to experience the concept of rejection and poverty 4 times, or, in which case, stay poor for life. Or you can say, wow, really? How fast can I get through the first 4 failures so I can get to number 5? Right? 2 different ways of looking at life. One of them is a willingness to embrace uncertainty, because that's the game. The other is living in fear of not getting it right first time, in which case you lose the game of life off the bat.
Nice, really nice. David asks, who are some people you look up to?
Tall people. No, just kidding. Who do I look up to? There's certain mentors that I've been very blessed in my life to have been able to have. Probably the most significant in terms of an impact on my psychology would be George Zalicki, and there's a video on my YouTube channel where I talk about my most impactful mentor. It's a beautiful story. It's 15 minutes worth of your time to watch. But yeah, study George's work. He's amazing. I was recently spent a week at his house. He's 80 years old, and I love George to bits. He's just been an inspiration in terms of how to understand disarm negative emotions, which was a big, I guess, skill that I learned at a young age, which most people go to their grave never mastering. Tony Robbins, obviously, I spent 15 years around the world working with Tony alongside of the events, dealing with all of the emotional fallout that he's a master at being able to create, so that people can get out of their comfort zone and embrace change. I would say, from business, Chet Holmes, the late great Chet Holmes, is an ex-business partner of mine that I have fond memories of and taught me a huge amount. Also, Jay Abraham, who was a partner of mine one time. I would also say Dan Pena has taught me a lot. Dan, most people know Dan now through a lot of his podcasts and stuff through London Real that I introduced him to. He's got an interesting personality around him, a bit of a dose of Dan, as they call it. Empathy is not something you get from Dan, so don't go looking for it there. I would also say that from a place of real learning, my mother taught me how to have tolerance for other people's point of view. And I know, Sasha, your mother taught you how to have tolerance for other people's point of view through the negative, by not being an example of that. And that's also something that's a massive point here, guys. Doing something, or seeing somebody do something wrong, or doing something that's an example of something wrong, can be a brilliant example for people of what not to do. So you're always giving, always teaching, always serving by who you are showing up. It's not because you have to get the answer right every time, and neither does everybody else. Adolf Hitler gave a brilliant example of how not to show up as an ethnocentric leader for the greater good. And as a result of that, we created the United Nations, or have far more understanding of what not to tolerate when it comes to persecution, genocide, etc. So there's no such thing as right, wrong, good, bad. There's only examples of what's to follow, or examples of what's not to follow, in my opinion. So I forgot the original question, but I'm sure I answered.
You did. Alex is asking, and he says, "Hi Sasha and Peter, we all know about the importance of the people we surround ourselves with. So my question is, who are the 5 people you personally spend most of your time with?" I guess I'll go first, give Peter just a break, because he talks a lot. It's amazing. He doesn't slow down at all. It's a skill. So for me, half the year I'm in Ecuador, so I hang out with my friends down there. So I have my friend Bill, who's been on my podcast, who's a super high-level guy, just unbelievable soul. Becca Tugani, again, one of our speakers, quite a lot. Other people ask, and then when he's in town, a guy called Ramses, who's a shaman, who's really, really powerful shaman, works a lot with ayahuasca, San Pedro. He's usually in Peru, but when he's in Ecuador, I see him quite a bit. And then when I'm in Europe, Isabel, quite a bit, and then my friend Marcus over the last few years, quite a bit, and then this year a lot with Henry, who a lot of you know. He's in the group as well. He's again, high-level dude. And there's the thing is, because I'm always traveling, I know so many people. So for me, it's difficult to say 5 people. It would be more like 25 people, but those are the people that come to mind. They're all really amazing people. Let me flip it over to the P-Man. Boom.
Yeah. In all fairness, you're not really asking the right question, and don't hear that from criticism. It's just semantics around language, and a lot of that question comes from obviously the late great Jim Rohn, who says you are the 5 people the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, and that's been requoted all over the web with people who are significance-driven trying to claim it. So for me, it's not about who are the 5 people, because the 5 people I could mention wouldn't mean anything to you. What is the quality of the people that you hang around with, irrespective of the numbers? Generally speaking, if you're confined to one particular proximity, then you tend to have 5 people that show up more, and that certainly was the case in Jim Rohn's time. Whereas, what is the level of consciousness of the people you spend time with is a far more empowering question. And here we come to the dichotomy of friends and family. We don't choose our family after we've been born. I'm a great believer that we do choose our family before we come here, and I was explaining to Sasha, sometimes that's because we choose dysfunctional parents so that we can get the lessons and learn to grow in areas where we hadn't had that opportunity before. Now, I've grown up with 2 very loving parents here. They've both passed away. But maybe the next time I come back to Earth School, I'm going to have dysfunctional parents because I didn't get to grow that muscle this time around. Maybe I did it last time. Maybe I need a refresher. I'm cool with whatever it is. But the level of consciousness of your family is what it is. Love your family, but choose your friends. And if you're going to hang around with 10 recreational drug users, I've got news for you. You're going to become the 11th. It's the law of conformity. Just like if you eat in a fast food restaurant, your body's going to adapt. If you eat in a juice bar and a vegan restaurant, your body's going to adapt. It doesn't care. Your mind, your soul, your spirit's the same thing. It's constantly being conditioned by the level of consciousness, or the level of consciousness in terms of nutrition that you are feeding it or surrounding yourself with. You hang out in Dubai, where I lived for 6 years, you're going to get acclimatized to hot weather. You come back to England and people are wearing a t-shirt and I'm wearing a jumper, thinking, how can they do that? Because you've adapted. So who do I spend time with? People that light me up, people that I resonate with at a high level of consciousness, and occasionally I'll let Sasha in. Right? But other than that, you get the idea.
Great answer. Okay, so Victor asked, do you have any specific hacks for this reality, virtual world? Maybe if you knew some real life small hacks that will benefit on us on a daily basis.
1000%. You get to influence the quantum field based upon 2 predominant levels of actuality. One is your level of consciousness and your level of coherence, right? So high coherence, right, from a neurocardiologist term that, if you're familiar with heart math, if not, go check them out. When you're in high coherence, which is a loving state of gratitude, joy, peace, forgiveness, humility, compassion, you get the idea. High vibrational states. From that place, you can use intent. Now, intent isn't the mind. Intent is something that's like at a being level, not a thinking level, at a being level. When you use intent to influence reality without using the mind, which will use verbal cues, I want to attract wealth. No, that's the mind talking. But when you feel abundant, that's different. That's using being level. So when you're high vibration, you use being level, you're affecting the probability of what comes into your data stream. You want an example of that? Go check out the study that HeartMath actually did, where they took people at a high level of coherence and put them in front of test tubes of DNA, and they used intent from a being level to see if they could unwind or tighten the helix, double helix, on the DNA. What happened? When they were out of coherence, just using their mind, trying to focus on it, nothing. When they got into a heart space, raised their frequency, and then used their being level intent to imagine that double helix and send that energy vibrationally using your imagination and your energy, not your mind, 25% of that DNA unwound, or it wound 25% tighter. That's you at its consciousness affecting physical matter reality. We call that a hack. Right? So if you remember, the mood that you are in sends out a signal. Right? Write this down, tattoo it on the inside of your eyelids. The quantum field is always listening. You are always broadcasting something. Is it fear? Because fear will align the heart and mind just as fast as love. And then you're broadcasting a signal of what you don't want. And all the universe is hearing is your echo. Oh, I don't want poverty, 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 poverty. Oh, I don't want to meet another asshole, 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 asshole. It's, it's the echo that you get, because that's what you're sending out in the field that's bouncing back to you. So, if you raise your vibration, I am abundance, abundance, abundance. I am grateful, grateful, grateful. You'll attract more things to be grateful for. You want to hack reality? It's as simple as that. Don't look for some cheat code algorithm that you think you've got to sneak into some back door in the program. It's as simple as what I just said.
Here's a question you actually don't see a lot, but it's probably the most important question, or linked to it. How do you define love? That threw me for a sec, too.
Very well. The scientific definition of love, if you want it, is essentially a ultimate lowering of entropy. Now, what do I mean by that? Entropy is a scientific term that essentially states a disorder. As outlined in the second law of thermodynamics, if you are left to your own devices without any conscious input, you will decay. If you don't tend your garden, it will overgrow and you'll get weeds. If you don't look after your body, it will deteriorate. If you don't tend, repair and maintain your house, it will crumble. You get the idea. So entropy is a scientific term, and consciousness and this avatar, we have been sent here in order to help lower entropy. Now, how do we know that? Simple. Scientific term or scientific definition. Go and look at 400 million years of fossil records and you'll see something that is pretty irrefutable. Evolution exists and has a prime directive. The prime directive is to evolve into higher levels of complexity. So you take an amoeba, one cell. You take 50 trillion cells in the human body, there's a vast difference. If you had 50 trillion amoebas and a certain supply of food or nutrients, those amoebas would compete and fight against each other in order to win, survive, to get the nutrients. But if you've got 50 trillion cells in one organism called the human body, which is evolved from that amoeba, every generation of evolution requires something to make all of the cells work together, to cooperate, not compete. And that is, a lowering of entropy, a lowering of disorder, in other words, cooperation. So what is the ultimate extrapolation of evolution? Why are we here? Where are we heading? Well, love. How do I know that? Love is the ultimate destination of cooperation, is it not? Now, people may sound surprised, but let me give you an obvious stare in your face, why didn't I see this before example of life. We're here as masculine and feminine. Have you ever wondered why? I mean, God, source, ultimate, creator, I don't care what your label for it is. If you're a scientist, you call it evolution or nature. If you're a quantum physicist, you call it the field of infinite intelligence. Napoleon Hill calls it infinite intelligence. I'm a Star Wars fan, I call it the Force. It doesn't freaking matter what you label is. The travesty of humanity is that we go to war and kill each other over whose label is right. But if you take the ultimate source, they could have set this game up any way they wanted. Why choose masculine and feminine? Why have this dichotomy of opposites, of polarity, of energy? Why? Because if the game is to learn how to love, we've actually got to pretty much learn to cooperate or we go extinct. Ever thought of that? Now, at a lower level of consciousness, we have some cheats in the game that help us. We call that hormones, lust, biological drivers, instinct. At a higher level of consciousness, that becomes not lust, it becomes love. It becomes cooperation, it becomes a level of unity and harmony where it's a willingness that the experience becomes way more than the physical. So the game's kind of built that if we don't learn how to love, we kind of go extinct. It's that obvious to me. So what is love? It is the ultimate level of raising our frequency so that we become back to one, not just as individual cells, as an organism, but as everything. Kind of answer your question?
That's a pretty good answer. Here's a great question from Mike Toretto, who you remember from that? You remember him. Hi, Peter. I heard your talk at IMS and felt like I was at the by me level in my career. Brackets, relationships are at a higher level, and I want to move to through me, but as Sasha's COO, that's Chief Operating Officer, I feel like things have to be done by me or they really will not get done. So how do I keep getting things done, still moving up to the through me level?
Great question. Here's the definitive level of distinction around that. People in through me don't work less or less hours or less intensely as people in by me. That's the misnomer of people that talk about the law of attraction. I'm just going to like sit here, click my fingers and attract a check in the mail. No, that'll attract an eviction notice. Right? You can have people that are in through me mode, that if you turn the volume down on the video that you're looking against somebody doing in through me mode, it's identical. The difference is one thing. One has more stress than the other. One has more fear than the other. If you're doing something now out of necessity and like stress and trying to control everything, rather than just expressing your gift, at the fact, well, you're in charge of this, you're in charge of that, you go get it done, but it's a labor of love. You're doing it because it's an expression of your gift as an entrepreneur or as a manager or as somebody that's doing stuff. Now, in the world of business, we tend to fall into buy me a lot because we are trying to control stuff, because we're trying to get outcomes that are fixed in our mind. Well, the universe tends to kick back against that sometimes. But I work damn hard. I work hard when I'm on stage, but I'm doing it from a place of passion and love, and I travel around the world, probably you doing more hours than other people at their desk, but I'm loving it because I'm giving my gift. So if you have an association to what you're doing in terms of it's a way to give your gift, and you lower the importance around it and stop trying to control it, and work with life as a partnership there, allowing it to bring you what you can't control, and you just doing your part as an expression of your gift, you'll have a lot more time in through me, even though you may be doing more hours. You may be working more intensely on this campaign, but it's from a place of less fear, more joy. From less control, more allowing. Because it's synchronistic. It's coming from a place of tuning into a bigger picture, a bigger potential of taking Sasha's message to the world. And affecting people for the physical good, rather than I've got to hit this campaign number. Hopefully that makes a little bit of sense.
I think that makes a lot of sense. Beautiful. Victor, and you got some hearts there. Victor asks, what is the worst anti-hack thing you can do that will harm yourself? Example, being negative or criticizing other people. What most to avoid that most people do already?
We've been talking about the fact that life is a virtual reality. It's a computed reality. And so if we use a parallel of, we understand that through the technology right now, you're seeing me in real time from thousands of miles away in different time zones because of one thing. A binary equation called ones and zeros. Ultimately, that's what it's down to. We understand that. So I'm using it as a comparable or a correlatory metaphor. If this is a computed reality, I'm here to tell you that there is also a binary equation of life. And it boils down to it's simple as the ones and zeros. And that, my friends, is love or fear. Do you choose love or do you choose fear? Now, when you say judgment and negativity and depression and stress and anger and all that kind of stuff, they are just gradients of levels of fear. Love versus unconditional love versus joy versus happiness versus peace versus compassion versus humility versus non-duality are all different gradients along the choices of love. So what's the ultimate negative hack? Higher fear, lower love. It's as simple as that. Oh, well, I judge people. Well, that's just an expression of fear. Why are you judging people? Because you're scared of being wrong from your own model of the world, so you're more committed to invalidating theirs and backing that up with judgment. That's it. Simple. If you're scared of being bankrupt, it's because you're tying your self-worth to your net worth. And therefore, you don't feel you'll be good enough if you don't have the house, the car, whatever, and then people will judge you for it and you'll feel less fear. That's what it's down to. So, life is a process of lowering our fear and raising our love in ever more challenging circumstances. Now listen to me here, guys. It is not about walking around as done. Oh, well, I never have fear because I'm now at this evolved level of spirituality whereby, I always live in bliss. Well, I've got news for you. If you get there, then you've graduated Earth School, expect a bus come along that you didn't see coming, and you get taken out of the game because it's no longer going to be here. If you graduate high school at 16, you can say, well, I'm going to hang around now, I'm going to resit that last year or two. No, you don't get to do that. You get to go to college, but you can't stay on at school longer than the certain time that you're there to graduate school. Now, if you don't graduate, you still keep running the loop. But if you graduate, you can't stay on at school. There's no need. It's not geared up. The system's not designed for that. It wasn't built for that. Same in Earth School. So if you say, oh, well, I'm not good enough because, you know something, I keep trying not to judge people and then I judge them, and that's okay. Basically, you're given an exam, there's 100 questions and you get 50 right. Brilliant. Well done. You learn more from the 50 you got wrong than the 50 you got right, and next time try to get 55 right. It's the direction of travel. So the antithesis of that is beating yourself up because you're judging yourself, and then you're screwed because you've got no one else to ignore. But if you say, well, what's the ultimate act? Lower the fear, raise the love, appreciate it's a journey, usually of several lifetimes, and be okay with that. And where you are right now is absolutely fucking perfect. And the second you don't think so, you backslide. Oh man, I just screwed up again because I had an argument with my girlfriend. I had an argument with my girlfriend last night, right? And I meant to know half of this shit, right? But where's the lesson? When you get hooked, right? That's the time where you want to say, instead of like beating yourself up or blaming others or judging, say, okay, what do I learn from this? Where's the gift? Because the gift is in breakdown. The gift is in the wrong answers, not the right answers. And at that point, if you have the strength, the persona, the spiritual fortitude to reach for a shovel and start digging for the awarenesses, you'll find God. But most people don't. They don't reach for a shovel, they reach for a drink. They reach for a justification. They reach for an escape. And if you coming from that place, then it's just the fact that, we're just at an earlier stage of our development in Earth School. No right and wrong. It's not correlated to age. It's correlated to levels of consciousness. And wherever we're at on our journey right now is perfect. What's better, an acorn or a sapling? A sapling or a small tree? A small tree or an oak tree? No. A 10-year-old or a 5-year-old or a 15-year-old? What's better? There isn't any. A big tree or a small tree? There isn't any better. There's only where are you further along in the expression of your own potential. Love yourself at your level of Earth School and stop judging anyone else and yourself.
Beautiful. Andre's asking, how do you guys think that we could achieve greater levels of love and consciousness, such as of big masters of love like Jesus or other great masters?
Again, the inherent nature of the question leads me to assume that while I get the direction of travel is honourable, you wouldn't be on this this live stream if it wasn't the direction of travel you're already called to. So saying, oh, how do I accelerate my journey of consciousness is like being 10 years old in school and saying, how do I get to year where I'm 12 before I'm 11? Right? It's stop playing the game at that level and start saying, listen, my job is to follow what's true for me now in this moment. And what's true for you may be to go through a dark night of the soul so you can build the muscle to accelerate past the next level. It may be to stop judging people and just start honoring yourself. It may be that, that the next level of growth for you is just to be okay with where you're at and let go of the need to be better than unless you judge yourself for not being faster or a faster student. It's all iterations of the same pattern. So, love yourself where you're at. Come from being more kind than being more judgmental. Honor yourself and stop trying to invalidate where you are as not being good enough yet. And that next level will present itself at the perfect opportunity.
All right, guys, we're coming towards the end. So if anyone has one more have you ever been in a situation or known somebody that have you ever I'll just read it. Okay, so now anyone you or anyone you know created and run a business even via an app while simultaneously working for a company that requires workers to sign an agreement that turns over anything they create at all inside and outside of the field or industry or the company to the company. Car companies, at least in Detroit, Michigan, United States, require workers to do this.
Right, and your question is, do I know anyone that's done it, or what's my thoughts on complying with that versus not complying with it? I'm guessing.
I think it's probably both.
So I'm a classic indigo child. Although I'm not really a child anymore, although I do behave like a kid all the time.
In other words, fuck the system.
So I play by my own rules that are backed up by my own sense of values and moral superiority. Right? And when I say moral superiority, I don't mean that from ego, I mean from a place of evolved consciousness. And so, if I was to be required to work for something or a company where I had to sign an agreement that said that my own level of creativity outside of my 9-to-5 commitment to them was owned by them, I either wouldn't sign it Or if I felt I had to because I needed a job to help pay for my family and put food on the table, and that took care of it, then I would make my own call as to whether I would do that or not. What I wouldn't do is honor what I believe would be the nature or the energetic intent of that agreement, which was to steal company secrets for my own benefit. I'd kind of read it that way, which I wouldn't do. Right? Or try to, take over technology that they have invested millions in R&D in, that then given you a platform to go create something off the back of it. But outside of that, sorry, I play by my own rules.
Yeah, it comes down to, if it don't feel right, it probably isn't, and if it feels right, it probably is right. So the rules are completely bullshit. I follow natural law and what feels right in my heart, basically. Fuck, forget about what any company thinks. They're just trying to make money and do their own thing. So we have one more good question coming up, but first, I'm gonna let's do this in advance. I'll say that I want to thank Pete tremendously for his time. He's about to tell you about his book. I want to recommend it as well. He's just come out with a book. It's fucking great. Seriously, it's a great story. It's fucking crazy. There's so much wisdom in there. Really, he's been through some shit, and he took shit and he turned it into gold, basically, and it's amazing. So I want to give that a plug, and I want to say that it's always fun hanging out, and he'll be doing a more in-depth thing. We're going to be talking about consciousness and creating a business consciously in line with who you are next month for our paid in our paid academy, the Infinite Man Academy. So if you're not in it, you can join. I'm sure one of my team members will put a little link where you can go and find out more info about that. And so I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Pete to say whatever he wants to say, and then we'll do our last question. Boom.
Well, thank you, Sasha. And yes, when I spoke at the Infinite Man Summit, I just got a book coming out. If you recall, I was very excited. It's The Inside Track. And here is a copy, would you believe? And one thing I'm very proud of to say, for those of you I know have supported me in this, thank you so much. You'll probably see a little gold flash across the top there. And I'm just very humbled to say that this became an international bestseller within 2 hours of its launch. It became Amazon #1 within 4 hours. We've sold to, I think, 20 countries on 5 continents in the first 24 hours. And the feedback so far on Amazon on all platforms, .co.uk, .es, .com, .whatever, has been nothing but 5 stars, and that's been really humbling. But I wish I could spend some more time with you guys here, because as you can see, I just love to share and give hopefully a little bit of high-level wisdom from some of the mistakes I've made and some of the journey I've had. But if I could encourage you to buy one book this year, it would probably be this one, because the best of who I was able to show up as in a situation where this was real and not thought about is contained in this book. It's an incredible story. I'm so proud of it. It's already affecting thousands of lives across the world, and I'm just blessed that if you do want to grab a copy, it's on Kindle, it's on iBooks, it's on iTunes, it's Audible. The Audible version is me narrating as well, by the way. Or if you're good old-fashioned and want to kill trees, then go buy the paperback. And it's an incredible journey. So please, Inside Track. Let me know your thoughts. Write a review on Amazon. As long as it's honest, that's all I care about. And I promise you, if you've liked what I've covered in the last half hour or so, this will blow your mind. And I think Sasha will vouch for that.
Yeah, once I started reading it, I finished it in a few days. Like, it was a few days, boom, it was done. All right, so yes, thanks again for being here. And let's do one more question by one of our members. Mr. Misha, he's been in the Academy for a long time. Good to see you here. He says, is there a way to quickly decide what someone's consciousness is and whether you should make friends with them or date them? Also, I got a lot from you guys pertaining to having faith and dealing with uncertainty. These are important concepts, at least for me. I've told Sasha how I quit one of my jobs in order to work on a business, which is fun and huge learning curve. And so far, I made $1,500 within 1 week by thinking about giving value to others and trying to come from a place of love. Are you guys at the airport or the mall? We are actually in a mall because we got kicked out of an office thing that closed at 7. And it was funny because then a cleaner walks in and we're like, we could have just been in there and the cleaner could have locked up. But anyway, it's all good. So the question was, is there a way to quickly decide someone's consciousness and whether you should make friends or date somebody?
One of the things I said earlier is that you never really have enough information to make the right decisions. And when you're dealing with something like as nebulous as consciousness, it does take a little while, an experience for you to start dialing in. For me now, I skydive, and for those of you at Infinite Man Summit, you probably remember the story of me jumping out of a plane on my first ever attempt. But when I skydive, in the first 50 jumps that I did, I wore an altimeter on my wrist because I was fixated on when 4,000 feet came. I was pulling my chute. Now when I jump, yeah, I don't even look at my wrist because I've just got an inbuilt sense of knowing when I'm at 4,000 feet, and I just glance and yeah, there it is. It's, you know, so it's something that comes along with experience. Now, when you're playing golf and you're starting out, which club do I use? At a certain point, after playing for a while, you just know which club you're going to use. Is it going to be a 7-iron or a 5-iron? You just know. So when you're working with people and you're assessing levels of consciousness, experience counts. You're going to decide, and how you're going to learn most? By getting it wrong, not right. But the tipping point, and if you read Power versus Force, or again, if you read the inside tracks, I cover it in depth in here as well, right? The tipping point is the level of 200. And it's a very easy way to spot that. Is somebody more of a giver or a taker? Is somebody more ethnocentric or egocentric? Is somebody more pride-driven or empathy-driven? That's a very pretty cut and dry, easy way. Now, bearing in mind that there's also stages of consciousness where people hang out and live, and there are states of consciousness where people visit. So you may want to see somebody over time rather than judge them on an initial meeting where they may have just had an argument with their girlfriend and they're in a lousy mood, right? But so give that as context. Now, one of the things that I do, and I'll be honest, is one of my little secrets here, one of my little hacks to sort of finish with, is if I want to hang out with someone, I want to do business with somebody, I will go and have a meal with that person, or if I'm in business, I'll go to a restaurant with them. And not only will I be looking at how they show up, which is kind of ancillary, it's just like a first date. You basically, who can lie the best, and put their best foot forward and hide all their crap. That's how most people work. But no, what I'm really looking at is how do they treat the people that serve them? The waiters, the waitresses, the maitre d', the people that open the door, the chefs, the barman. How do they treat those? Because in a lot of cases, people that are egocentric will have a superiority frame around that. Excuse me, I said I wanted ice. Yeah? This meal's been waiting far too long. Versus, someone says, coming from a place of appreciating those who serve them. Coming from a place of being grateful for the fact that you didn't cook the damn thing or wash it up. So if it's a little bit late, no big deal. I understand. You get the idea. You can learn a lot about somebody by watching how they treat other people, especially in the area of service. And that, I will never ever do business with someone or hang out with someone or not make friends with someone. So I make friends with anybody, but I won't choose to spend my time and therefore be influenced from a level of conformity in the environment, mentally, physically, psychologically, spiritually, on anybody that calibrates lower than 200. I've learned that lesson over and over again. I won't employ anybody in my team that calibrates less than 200. Yeah, and again, cut and dry. Are they givers? Are they takers? Are they more in it for themselves or what they can give? Yeah, you get the idea.
I just want to add, it's brilliant, that for me, so many of my relationships have been changing over the last year because I just can't be in those relationships anymore because they're with people who just, I love them, they're great people, but they're just not at a level where I can truly engage and be myself and feel like that. I just can't do it. Yeah, because they just haven't gotten to, they're just at a different place and I have to accept that. And maybe I'll reconnect with them at some point, but it's really difficult. It's difficult. I've lost 3 people in the last year, people that I was close with, because I just cannot have them in my life because they're just not there, and that's part of the growth, But then I'm meeting new and more exciting people that are on my frequency. So my life is getting better and more exciting. But part of it is just letting go of old relationships, just like it's part of letting go of old habits, old belief systems, old everything. It's just if it doesn't serve you and creating the best version of yourself, you have to let it go. It's not always easy. It's not always pretty. But if you're serious about But if you're serious about becoming the best version of yourself, you have to. That's just part of the journey.
Part of your own growth.
Absolutely, and that's what we're doing here at Infinite, man. So we shall keep on. We'll keep on doing it. So that's it, man. It was amazing. It always goes by so fast with Peter. It really goes, and you're always like, fuck, it's just getting good. How can it be over? But it's But we gotta eat. I got a quick call that I have to pop on as well. So I love you guys. It's been so much fun hanging out here. We'll do this again soon.
Thank you, guys. Yeah,
Thanks.
absolutely, for giving me your time, and hopefully you got something out of that can help at some level, and feel free to shoot questions through Sasha. I'm looking forward to where we really get onto a deep dive on this in about a month's time. Look out for that. And if you've got any questions on the inside track after you've read it, please just shoot them over. I just did a podcast yesterday that Sasha was in the room with, where we just did a full hour on people that had read the book and had some incredible questions and empowering insights. So, happy to do that as well. If you've read the book by then and then have some questions, I'll just throw them in. I'll stay on as long on that podcast. I will stay on as long until the last question is done.
Boom, shakalaka. A lot of love coming our way. Some fire logos. I don't know what those. Lots of thumbs ups. All right, so. Love you guys. Thanks for showing up and working on yourselves and becoming the best version of you. I love you mucho. And you know what? As a declaration of my love to the universe, I'm going to kiss this guy. Mwah.
Stay
on
amazing.
the face. It was a little close to the lips, but not quite. All right. Still head roll. Love you guys. Peace. Ciao. You can be judged by all those around you. And in the end of the day, none of it matters. Only your own idea of you and who you are makes any difference.
Hey everyone, I'm Coach Mike Toretto from the Infinite Man Summit. And here on Team Infinite Man, we like to call ourselves the social freedom experts. But maybe some of you guys have the question, well, what exactly is social freedom? I walked around and I asked people, hey, when you hear the phrase social freedom, what instantly comes to your mind? And I heard a variety of answers. Some people had no idea. Some people thought it had to do with civil rights, speaking your mind, freedom of speech, things like that. All these are decent answers, but the way that we like to define it is social freedom is your ability to do, say, and act on the things that you feel are right without fear of judgment, or what other people might think about you, or what they might say, without fear of rejection, without fear of embarrassment. Or maybe you have that fear, but you have the courage, you have the bravery, you have the grit to feel the fear and take the action anyway. That's what we define as social freedom. And we feel that social freedom is one of the most crucial concepts in social dynamics, in being able to interact with your fellow human beings in the best way, in the most optimized way. And you look around and you can see why we think this. The world is currently functioning under a complete lack of social freedom. Almost everybody you meet out there is not socially free or has a very low level of social freedom. And by that I mean that they care a lot and they think a lot and they take a lot of action with regard to how other people perceive them. In other words, they're spending a lot of their life trying to make other people happy or to get by under the radar, not get picked out of a crowd, blend in, all that other kind of stuff, because they have a fear of standing out. They have a fear of being called out for something, for having a controversial opinion, or believing something strange or inexplicable, or perhaps different actions that they're taking, like spiritual practices, diet practices, who they're dating, all those kinds of things. So everybody is pretty much terrified of being exposed all the time. And this can cause you to lead a very limited, very frustrating life. And we've worked with many students that have been, in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and tell us, I don't feel like my life has even begun yet. I don't feel like I have enough friends. I don't feel like I have close enough relationships. I'm definitely lonely. I'm definitely, still not taking action on this great business idea I have because of fear. I'm not really dedicating myself completely to my diet because my friends are holding me back. All of these are things we hear from people all the time. And I'm sure if you're watching this channel, you've probably said something similar, right? You wouldn't be watching our self-help channel if everything was just peachy.
Everything's peachy. Thanks for asking.
So what we want to teach you guys is how to raise your level of social freedom so you don't have to spend all that time processing, how is this person going to react to me? What are they going to say? What are they going to do? Am I going to embarrass myself? Instead, you can just feel something, check with yourself. Does that feel right? Does that feel like the thing that I truly want to do? Am I acting out of love instead of fear? And if so, if the answer is yes, I'm acting out of love and my action isn't illegal or about to harm anybody, then you just do it without any further thought. You don't worry if you look weird doing your exercise routine in the middle of the airport, right? You don't care if you sound controversial by talking about some belief that you hold really dear to your heart in a group of people. If someone calls you out, you'll just defend yourself and move on, right? You don't feel approach anxiety. When you see that super interesting person across the room, you don't lock up in fear and hesitate and then go home hating yourself, saying, I wish I had approached, I wish I had said something, all it would have taken was for me to say hi. That's really the truth. Most of the techniques that we teach are very simple. What makes them difficult is your own level of fear and resistance you have to taking that action. And that's where the social freedom comes in. That's where our expertise comes in. We take the concepts of social freedom deeper and farther than anybody else out there. We've been the ones talking about it since 2007. We've got whole programs dedicated to it. An entire 50% of our flagship program is all social freedom. So that means when other coaches are taking you out there for multi-day instances, you're working on the topic, the main topic, whether it's dating or a business focus or whatever, the entire time. Well, with us, at least with our dating program, we're only talking about dating specifically half the time. But you're still making the same progress, if not way more progress than any other program out there. Why? Because we're dealing with the root cause of your difficulties in social situations, a lack of social freedom. So if you're interested in this, if you understand the concept of social freedom and you see how it applies to your life and how it can apply to every moment of every day of the rest of your life in so many areas beyond just interpersonal skills, but also in business, health, spirituality, then get in touch with us. Click one of the links below in the description or shoot us a question at info@infinitemansummit.com and we can talk about how we can help you specifically. Cheers.